Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. This is your conductress, Marley Majcher, and I am really excited to bring back a favorite guest. So just know we are listening to your comments and to your feedback, and I want to welcome Ashley McFarland, who is going to talk to us once again about astrology, all kinds of heavy things we don't want to talk about, how it relates, the full moon, my favorite subject. I can never get any of that straight. Birth chart stuff, etc. So Ashley, welcome to the show and give us a little bit about your background.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be back. I am a practicing astrologer. I've been doing this professionally for about 5 years now. My sweet spot, my bread and butter is really working with clients one-to-one. So I love breaking down the birth chart, talking about just the energy that you naturally come in with, what those energetic patterns are, and how, again, it relates to you personally. So love doing that. Love doing events. Don't love talking about always what is taking place on a collective level, but that is one of the things that we're able to do with astrology. I know we'll chat about it a little bit because this is a big time of change.
Now, let me interrupt you 1 second on that because I'm curious, why don't you like to talk about the heavy stuff? Because before the call, when we were kind of prepping for this, you said that. And obviously, none of us like to, it's kind of people don't like confrontational. I don't know who does love confrontation. I guess sometimes I do, but for the most part, right? So, but what is it about heavy stuff that is it just kind of you in general don't like to talk about that, or you don't like to bring it into your work? What is it?
You know what it actually is I am in a place, and I haven't always been this way, where I do feel pretty comfortable in my convictions and beliefs and standing on those. And at the same time, though, astrology is the study of a lifetime, and there are astrologers out there who really specialize in talking about how the energy plays out on a national level, on a global level. And it's so much and it's so nuanced that I never feel like I do it justice, because even today, and just thinking about, all of the things that are happening, in California and LA, and thinking about, just what's happening in Gaza and all those kind of things, and all over the world, right? There are big things happening. And there's so much to it. And so sometimes even myself, I'm overwhelmed by it. To just kind of give a high level, we are at a point on our journey that we're being asked, a lot of us, to really figure out if the systems that we have created serve us. And if they do, great. And if they don't, what kind of changes do we need to make so that the systems and the infrastructure supports everyone, or maybe not everyone? And so we're in this really polarizing time, and it's a lot. It's really fascinating to see it play out. There are astrologers who really have spent a lot of their work looking at the history and the energy, the patterns that have taken place since America, we started here in, 1770. Oh my God, was it 6 or was it 4? See, that tells you I don't like history. Really tiny dates and things like that. I never want to mess those up. However, at this time, what is interesting is, at least for the US, we have seen since the American Revolutionary War, we saw this again here with the American Civil War. We saw this with World War II. That is when the planet Uranus, who likes to shake shit up, who is a bit of a humanitarian themselves, who needs to beat to their own drum, but really likes to bring information to the surface. It's quick, it's fast. That planet is about to make its way into the energy of Gemini here on July, oh gosh, don't quote me, but I think it's July 9th or July 7th, beginning of July. Okay.
And this is 2025, because just in case, because people can be listening to this at any point. Now, one thing I want to pause, because I want to get you off the hook for a second so that you don't have to worry, is that hopefully no one is listening to this podcast, breaking news, or to decide who to marry or whether you should quit your job. Okay. So on that note, I want to take Ashley off the hook about we're discussing current events. I don't like to have politics in any of it. So we're going to keep that out of it as much as possible. We can touch on the heaviness, but again, let's really hope no one is making big decisions based on what we're talking about, because you should not. Okay. So anyway, so now there you're off the hook. It's all on me. I'll get the hate mail. Keep going.
Well, what I was going to say, and this isn't specific to anyone, but what is interesting is here, come July of 2025, Uranus is going to make its way into the energy of Gemini. This happens roughly 84-ish years, every 84-ish years. So it did the same thing during World War II, during the Civil War, and the Revolutionary War. So it has been there. So we anticipate, and again, this just being, I'm looking at patterns with energy. So, and knowing that war has shifted and evolved, and it continues to, like the idea, the word war, right? Like some could say we're already in a war, right? Like in like a cyber war, like there's an information war, a trade war, like we could go all of it, right? But what's interesting though is, just if we think about sort of the things that have been happening and what's been leading up, at least in the States here, over the past weekend, this is like, because again, energy isn't like a light switch. It doesn't like stop and start on the exact date. There is some buildup. And so we are at a time, you're right, where things are very divisive in this country, and we're having to ask ourselves the questions.
So, okay, just to give context too about because again, when we're taping this versus when this is first going to go live. So I'm in Pasadena, California. A lot of you guys know, a suburb of Los Angeles. And we have a lot going on in Los Angeles. A lot of times we do. And there were some big ICE raids at the end of, if it was Friday or over the weekend. And it all hell broke loose in downtown LA. And yesterday on the 101 freeway, they were shutting down the freeway. And that's the piece where I'm like, I don't want to get into which is right or wrong. I think the one thing anybody could agree on is that it's very heavy. So is that what you're saying, is that it was all building? Because I don't know, maybe other people saw it coming, but I did not realize, like if you asked me on Thursday, is the National Guard going to be in Los Angeles in the next day or so? I'd be like, I don't, think so. Why? That's how quickly things change. And then all of a sudden, we've got the National Guard here and everybody is texting me saying, I hope you guys are okay. So to answer your question, yes, we're okay. I'm doing a podcast with Ashley, but what did you see? Like, what did you see in the stars that was building up to this?
Right now is just unique because there is so much happening. Like that is one element of it, is that we are going to find ourselves in a moment where we really need to kind of, again, think about the structures and the systems that are in place. Think about the way that our actions help community, help the collective, divide the collective. Like we've got all of that. That is happening in other areas as well. I mean, we have some really big planets, like Pluto moved into Aquarius at the end of last year. That was really big for the collective too, because Pluto is a planet that moves incredibly slow. It takes 248-ish years to make its way around the zodiac. Pluto likes to transform. It forces things to die so they can be reborn. And moving into the energy of Aquarius, it's really innovative. It's, it's forward thinking. It's also really concerned with humanity. Yeah. So there's just like this underlying theme of what is it that we need to do for all of us? And again, this is like the way that the US chart or how we use it, it plays in a little bit differently as it would for anywhere in the world. But those are like those are two of the really big things. We also have Neptune, which is another planet that moves very slow. And when planets move slow, that just means we feel the impact more collectively than we do individually. When a planet like Neptune, Pluto, or Uranus connects to a moon, the moon or the sun in your chart or my chart, for example, we're going to feel that. But, Pluto moving into Aquarius in my chart, sure, there are lessons there. There are things that I'm going to go through, but it's a real slow burn. But Pluto moving into Aquarius on a collective level, we're going to see it played out a little bit more in our face, or we have to, right? It's our community, it's society, it's the world. So we have so there's big things, So I was saying, I think I was going to get to this. Again, there's so much, but Neptune is a really spiritual planet, compassionate, empathic, creative. It's a feeler planet. Of all the planets, it feels the most. From my perspective, it doesn't just feel in the places that we can see. There's a part of Neptune that's connected into that which we can't tangibly understand.
So let me ask a question, playing devil's advocate. Aren't all the planets tapped into something we can't see and understand? Because they're planets after all. Just knowing you, I know there's something more to that. So can you just elaborate or clarify a little bit about that?
Well, because each planet has a personality. Each planet likes to express themselves very differently. So, right, like a planet like the sun likes to shine big and bright. The sun is ego. The sun is deepest desires. The sun is vitality. It gives us the ability to keep going. It does that. It gives us the fire. So the sun, though, in an energy like Pisces versus the sun in the energy of Aries is very different.
Ooh, cool. Okay, so tell us how.
It's exalted in Aries. The sun in Aries is so happy to be there because the sun is again, I'm fiery. It's about me. Energy of Aries is okay, I need to make the decision. I'm going to be thinking of myself first. And I think sometimes we think that's bad, that's selfish. No, we need to take care of ourselves first, think of ourselves first so that we can take care of and think of others too. But we can't do that if we don't take into account, right? What's important to us. But Aries has this energy that's I can do things. That doesn't mean I'm an expert, but I can just show up and try them. I'm a pioneer. I need to do it because I need some freedom. I need some autonomy. I need to explore, but I don't have the knowledge necessarily or the feeling that I'm going to fail. I just have this feeling of I get to try. Who knows?
Because Aries is a confident sign. I mean, Aries is the ram. Yeah, I know many Aries near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. And so when the sun is there, it's here I am, and I get to do the things that really serve me. Now, a sun in in Pisces is going to be different because Pisces is the most, again, it's Neptune loves Pisces. So it is the most spiritual place. It's very compassionate. It's empathic. It wants to serve everybody and please everybody. But it's self-sacrificing because it has no boundaries. Pisces has no walls. It has no restrictions.
It's flowing like water. Yeah.
And I was going to say Cancer's water, Scorpio's water. But if you think about it, Cancer's the youngest child. Scorpio's the middle child. Pisces is the oldest. Pisces is the wisest. Pisces has wisdom beyond what we can understand. The way it feels comes from that which we can't really explain. And that's okay. But so a sun in Pisces sometimes might just get really burnt out and overwhelmed because they are feeling and picking up on the energy of everybody around them. Whereas a sun in Aries is the world is ending. I can fall asleep. That's fine because I've got to take care of me first. And listen, your sun sign is the tiniest part of your chart. There's so much more.
But we talk about the sun sign all the time. That's what's crazy. It's people, because the sun sign is when you say, oh, when were you born? And then, you say, and I'm a Sagittarius, and that makes sense on so many levels because all the things that's why I have you on the podcast twice now is I love all the metaphysical crystals, all that, learning, travel. but there are a lot of other components. But the one thing that before we kind of jump to that is I always get stuck with the fact that Scorpio is a water sign, because Scorpions, to me, I love that sign. But to me, they like, the word that I want to say is like fiery. Like they are, I mean, they've got some zest, but they're water signs.
Scorpions or Scorpio energy, they're connected to the underworld, into the darkness. They can go into the shadow. They can connect with the things that most of us don't like to uncover, that don't like to talk about. So when we think about Scorpios, we really like that energy is supposed to explore the topics like of things like death, crime, mystery. They're supposed to explore like real, raw, true intimacy. The kind that like is not about scratching the surface, but rather the kind that like, and I always say this, I probably said this last time, you've got to lift up the rug where the dead body's buried.
So like you lift up the rock and that's where the scorpions are.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you can think of it that way, right? Here is where we grab the shovel and we dig out those dead bodies. We know that we have to get to the root. We have to get to the bottom. We can't let things under the surface fester. Because if we don't, like that's when the toxic kind of Scorpio stuff can happen. Because they're like, yeah, I'll go there. But then the jealousy, because they're feelers. They're big feelers, but different than Cancer, where Cancer's like, I feel, I can cry. Scorpio's like, I feel, and I'm going to sit with it. I'm not going to show you my cards. You hurt me. I'm not going to show you that you hurt me, but I will figure out how if this is like an underdeveloped Scorpio, how I can get back to you and hurt you. Or the evolved Scorpio's like, oof, I feel super hurt. I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to process it. I'm going to like psychologically work through what this is. And then hopefully we can have a really raw, deep conversation and move through it.
Okay. But then Cancer, and I've got a couple Cancers, very significant Cancers in my life. They like, I always think Cancer, I'm like emotional. So what's the difference between Cancer and Scorpio? Like the Cancers will show their heart on their sleeve more than the Scorpions.
Yes. And again, if you go back to thinking like they're the youngest child, like they're kind of the baby, they are just more open and ready to feel. All the water signs are feelers and they're intuitive. They're picking up on the unseen. Cancers, you can be sitting with your bestie and your Cancer friend might be like, something's off. You haven't said it, but I can feel that you are sad. Like what's happening? Right. And so Scorpio, I almost like to think it's kind of like Scorpios might maybe not pick up on, and yes, they can, but maybe it's more like, I feel like I can see ghosts, or maybe there are messages from the dead, or there are, I'm able to connect like in that kind of a way. Whereas like Pisces is like, like I'm in deep meditation, perhaps connecting with previous lifetimes or parallel lifetimes, if you agree with things like that. Or maybe I'm connecting with messages from other dimensions. Like it's runs that whole full spectrum.
Pisces are the deeper ones. They're just, I kind of think of it as like, the puppy that's got like all this, energy and is just sort of everything is on display. And then it seems like the Scorpions, like you said, the middle child, that's maybe a little bit more like the teenager and a little bit more mischievous. But the Pisces is like, I'm going to be smart about this, or a little bit smarter. They've got wisdom.
Yes, it is. And listen, like Cancer's the mama bear. Scorpio's like the mystic. And then Pisces is like the high priestess, or like the hermit.
When you say Cancer's the mama bear, like are they the nurturers?
Mm-hmm.
Two Cancers totally are that. They are, it's like everything is the family, everything, like in the best way, but it's literally everything.
It is. And it's home. Like Cancer energy is connected to thinking about your roots, your traditions, where you're from. It's like, how are we rooted? Taking care of the home, nurturing the home, the family, the people who came before me, the people that I have birthed. And so it's all of that. It's so part of like our foundation, like what we're tapped in, connected into. And so it is like Cancers, they just have that ability to make people feel like they're part of the tribe. And that doesn't mean that they're like Gemini, that's like, hey guys, come, like let's all like hang out, where it's really easy. Cancer's like, yes, but hold on, let me vet you a little bit. And that's where the idea of the crab comes from, like hard shell, soft on the inside. That's like, okay, I just need to make sure you are who you say you are. I'm not going to put you through a ton of hurdles and tests, but I am going to like make sure, like do a little bit of the vetting process, because once you're in, I'm going to love on you and nurture on you and do all the mama bear kind of things for you. So I just want to make sure.
But it's going to, that you're not going to eat the rest of the cubs.
And actually, not to take it back to sort of like what's happening on a collective level, but Cancer, again, where this is June, what is today's date? June 9th. Actually, I chose this date for a specific reason. And that's because Jupiter, our cheerleader planet, we say words like our most benefic planet. It is the planet of growth and luck and abundance and opportunity. And like, what do you believe? And like, what is your faith? What is it for? Like, what is the purpose of life? Like Jupiter's like, we want you to explore and expand.
And Jupiter is Sagittarius, right?
Yes, Jupiter and Sagittarius, like that, they're besties. Jupiter loves themselves in Sagittarius. And Jupiter also loves to be in Cancer. So the cheerleader planet for all of us who's like, go Marley, go Ashley, go anybody who's listening right now, it moved in officially into the energy of Cancer today, June 9th, 2025. Yes. And it will be here until June 30th of 2026. So it'll be here for roughly 1 year, June to June. And then it makes its way to the next sign. So we haven't had Jupiter in Cancer in 12 years.
So what, okay, now you said Jupiter loves Cancer. What does Jupiter love so much about Cancer?
Yeah. Well, because imagine Jupiter's like, I want the expansion and the luck and the opportunity. And Cancer's like, yes, let me nourish that. Let me water that. Let me help you help it grow. So this is Jupiter's, yes, this isn't just Jupiter's home. This is like its favorite vacation place. This is like, I am thriving here. Let's go. And so to all my clients, I'm like, think back to 2013, 2014, 12 years ago, June to June-ish, give or take. I mean, again, this is energy. This isn't like, yeah, but 2013, 2014, what was going on in your life? What, and specifically, if you do a reading, we're able to look at what area of life specifically, but just for anybody listening, within this next year, if you're listening to this podcast, June of 2025 to 2026, what was growing? What was feeling good? Like what was working? But we kind of get a chance to sort of reflect on that as we enter this new year of having our favorite planet in its favorite sign. So this was exciting because I'm a Cancer rising, and we can talk all those things too. But so this is a big thing for me and my self identity, who I am, putting myself out there. So this is a big year for me. But it's funny because when people meet me and they don't know me very well, they're like, oh, you're so Cancer. I would think you're Cancer. And I'm like, well, of course, because I'm a Cancer rising. And actually, oh my gosh, I feel like this is like the most
ADD plus ADHD plus, yeah. Okay. So then I always say the only letters after my name instead of Esquire, PhD, or MD are going to be Marley Majcher, ADHD. Feel free to jump.
Oh gosh, now where was I even going?
You're Cancer rising. And then
Leo sun, and I'm a Gemini moon. So those are your big three. And to anybody listening, if you know your sun sign, I'm sure you do, really easy to look at where the sun was when you were born. You can look without knowing your birth time at where the moon was when you were born. The moon moves fast though. So we would just want to make sure like the birth time really gives us that, because then we can see exactly where the moon was. But for the most part, most of us can, without the birth time, can figure out where the moon was. And that is true. The rising sign is so important because it is connected to the exact moment of birth. It is where the sun was rising on the eastern horizon at your exact moment of birth. And that shifts because the sun is, from our vantage point moving. And so it shifts about every 2-ish hours. And so when you're born, it stops. And so from my perspective, this is really the energy that the soul chooses to come into human form. And the rising sign always falls in the first house of self and identity. This is who you are. The difference for me working with the sun and the rising is the sun sign is really who you are learning to become. You will embrace and embody the energy of the sun and all of its nuances and complexities as you age. You just become more and more of that. And that's sort of the goal, but you're learning to become it. Whereas the rising sign is like,
that's like who you are. That's who you are in your DNA.
And this is just what people like kind of naturally will pick up on. Now, as I say all of that, I don't want you to think it's like I wake up in the morning the first 5-minute conversation I have with someone, I am embodying the rising sign. And then after an hour, then I'm my sun. No, I mean, it's all together. But this is so important. And listen, the rising sign in traditional astrology was always your horoscope. And it wasn't until the integration of modern astrology and Freud and a focus on the ego that modern astrology was like, let's roll with the sun. Now, at the same time, the sun sign makes astrology so much more applicable for people. Not everybody has or had the privilege of being born and knowing their birth time. So if you think about historically, when we talk about astrology and like who had access, this typically, especially readings and things like that, was reserved for people of privilege and power. Because for most, maybe they didn't, it was half past, whatever the sun's midway, or, that was what it was. You were born in a barn, you were born in a field, who knows, right? We don't know, but the back house, And so, yeah, it's more of a new thing in the past 60, 70 years where we really, some of us, at least in certain countries or certain states, have had that kind of information, or at least somebody jotting it down. And knowing, because then of course there also have been periods in history where, astrology has not been welcomed. We're now in a place again where this is nice. I can sit here as a woman, have a conversation with you about a divination tool, a practice that has been going on since the ancient Mesopotamia, and not feel like I'm going to be burned at the stake.
But that goes no matter what. And that's kind of, to me, the fun part is it's like, okay, bring it. I mean, you can still have an astrologer on your podcast and, at the end of the day, be very interested in science and all kinds of other mathematical equations, et cetera. It's just about kind of tossing stuff out there. And
we're just looking at where the planets are. We're doing some math and we are saying we have noticed these same patterns over time. And they're just patterns. And these are archetypes. And so it's up to every astrologer or even as a person. I mean, my gosh, now there's incredible apps and things that you can use to learn about your astrology. But then you take the energy of those archetypes and you make it applicable to you.
Is it that, sorry to interrupt. So we both know our friend Viola, who has been on this podcast a couple times. I think Viola describes it to me as, I want to make sure I've got it right. Is the rising sign the one that you present to the world, like that the world thinks you are? Okay. So wait, what's my rising sign again? Libra or something? I think it's Libra.
Yes. Okay. So I was like, oh gosh, I don't have it right on me. But it is like the rising sign is just the natural, and it's energy. So this is just what people are picking up on. They don't need to know you well. They don't need to know your deepest desires and the things that your ego really needs. And that kind of energy is really reserved for friends and family. People have really taken the time to get to know a little bit about what lights you up. So that's kind of the difference between those two. But when you weave in the moon too, because when we talk about the big three, we say the rising, the sun, and the moon. And to me, that is just like, for anybody out there, like just knowing those three gives you so much. And it's just validating. But the moon sign is your inner emotional world. This is the land of the feelings. This is the part of us that needs security and stability, the part of us that feels vulnerable. The moon is mother, the moon is water, divinity, femininity. I mean, the moon gives so much. But the moon is different than the rising and the sun because we really protect the moon. We want it held and nurtured. We get to choose who has access to our moon. And so when we're children, we usually find that because kids don't have the emotional maturity or a rational mind, nor have they gone through all of the social programming that just happens as you age and all of that, we can be much more our moon because that is just our emotional world. And so we're just like, oh my gosh, that kid took my toy, rah, So the moon is important, but as we age, we hide that moon to a degree. There's some of us who are much more open and honest about our feelings. I'm a Gemini moon. I'm talking about my feelings and emotions all the time. I'm intellectualizing them. I am learning about them.
No, but what do you mean when you say we hide it?
The moon is it's our feelings. It's our inner world. And so you might not want everyone to know your trauma, your the things that your mother wound or whatever those big things are that make you feel exposed and vulnerable. And so for a lot of us, we get to pick and choose now as adults who we share that energy with. Not everyone gets access. We usually need to have trust. We need to have respect. We need to have, we might need to have spent some time together. A Capricorn moon, for example, might be a lot more closed off than a Gemini moon like me, who's like, let's talk it out. Capricorn is much more reserved. Capricorn doesn't necessarily want to feel their feelings. They would like to push through. They would also like to build, because they're builders, lots of walls. I always like to think of a Capricorn moon like Fort Knox a little bit. What can we build to really protect that place? Because it's too hard to feel. They don't want to do it. They might also come from a family where a mother or there was some caregiver that just wasn't available emotionally for them. And it hardened them a little bit and caused them to really build those walls because they don't want somebody to knock it over again. Whereas me, with my Gemini moon, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, I overshared. Did I need to tell them about my divorce? Did I need to really get into that? Did they want to know that? But I like that. That is nurturing to me, is to be able to share it. And part of that is the way that I release it. But I still, I have to periodically, I always like to give this example to my clients, especially the really airy ones, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini. With your feelings, sometimes you need to look at that little box that you've tucked away all those feelings in, and you need to pull the box off the shelf, make some time for it, open that cute little box that says sad on it, open up the box, sit with those feelings. I have to sometimes literally schedule time to do that, because if not, I will have watched a few TikToks on how to process that. I will have talked about it to a friend, and all of that is healing to a degree, but really you got to feel.
I mean, I schedule all kinds of things, which is mostly like, Marley, don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do that. So you schedule time to open the box of the stuff you don't want to feel. No way. But you're not an air sign.
Because I'm a Gemini moon. I'm a Cancer rising. So yes, I am a feeler very much, and I'm empathic and all those things. But when it comes to my emotions, it's just harder for me. And I still do, but I just know that if I really create some intentional space to feel, it's good. Because if not, I will, like I said, I will just have intellectualized it, processed it, but then it keeps coming back up.
Because you haven't let it out. Like the steam is not out of the pot.
Exactly. It's ruminating. We've moved it to a different box.
Oh, got it. I've done that. In fact, where I keep moving, I realized I have a habit now of moving. Every time I move, there's some, based on whatever was going on in my life at the time, I'll move the same boxes, right? Like they're on these like plastic bins or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I don't even think I relabeled these bins. Like I think they just went boom, just picked it up and just moved it. Yeah.
I'm going to air out my mother because I know she'd be fine if I said this. I like that example that you just gave because the other night I came home and she had a big box out of stuff from the business that she had like 10 years ago. And she just looked at me and I was like, oh my gosh, what is it? And she was just like, and she had to do this for a friend who needed something, but she said, I just had to go through the most painful time of my life. And I have continued to move this box, but I haven't done anything with this box. And I am disgusted with how I dealt with this. I am saddened that I let it get to this point, and I need to get rid of this box. And so I'm looking at her and I'm like, okay, well.
You guys can see, you guys have to watch this on YouTube or on social media because then you can see Ashley's face where she's like, now you know the tea is about to get spilled. So yes. Okay. Keep going.
So I'm like, okay, so we're going to go through the box. Who do you need there? Let's do it. And then we're getting you a therapist. By the end of June, you need to have a therapist. And you need to really process this.
Okay. So I take it, I mean, without getting too personal, I take it she didn't want to close it or there was some part of it that, oh, got it. And so she just was like, okay, she accepted the fact that it had to close or she closed it. But then it was like, she didn't want to open that Pandora's box.
But she was like, I've held this box. She's like, it's still here. And she's like, I just need to deal with this. And, you know, my mom is 71, 72. And even just like culturally, her background, she's not anti-therapy and she just hasn't made the time. Cause again, you just keep going, you keep pushing through, you keep powering through. But I'm like, Mom, we need to get rid of that because you're still carrying that. And from my perspective, all those feelings and things, we carry them physically until we move them out.
And we don't even realize it. I mean, we've got so much, it's like a backpack, you know, that we're carrying and we think we're not. And then we're wondering like why our posture is so bad. And so I'm curious, has she unpacked the box yet or no?
Well, started to yesterday, but I was like, okay, we've got till the end of June and I'm going to help because I'm not sure if on her own, she would follow through with getting the support she needs.
That's I should have Marie Kondo on this podcast about all this stuff about, you know, how does it make you feel? And I think sometimes, you know, we can't read the label from inside the jar. We need somebody else to help us. And that's the other thing too. I talk a lot about in like business coaching is because there's so much shame around this problem you have in business or not being able to get to this level or solve this problem or whatever. But I think so much of it is just talking it out and realizing A, you're not the only one that had the problem or has the problem. And B, it's usually not as big as we make it, but my gosh, these things get into our brains, right? And I'm going to be really curious for your mom. We'll have to have you back after she's now, is it literally one box or is it like the box that's kind of, it's only one box? What in the world? I mean, what the heck could be in there? I mean, I'll come over and handle that. It'll be handled by noon.
I know. Well, and I think it's a lot of it, you know, yeah. I mean, there's like some financial stuff of just she wish she would have done things differently and just feeling the sadness and the disappointment and the, you know, and this was her baby. She birthed this. This was the majority of her career. This was her identity. So it just, you know, the success for her of that was wrapped into so many things that it was just, I think, really heartbreaking when it finally was like, there is no viable path forward.
And so we need to call Viola in MissFeelAndHeal.me to do a clearing. What has your mom done since then? Like that door closed, she closed the box, like she must have had, I mean, there must have been some good thing that's come out of having like in the last 10 years, right?
I mean, I would say, I mean, this all happened on Saturday night. So this is like very fresh and new. Like, yeah. So she was like, wow, I just don't think she realized how intense the feelings were there.
What made her open this box on Saturday?
She had her old business partner needed some paperwork.
Oh, and so she literally had to go into the box. And probably she was the only one that could go in and get it. She was the only one that she'd know what she was looking for. It all comes flooding back. Oh my gosh. You see your handwriting. You see, oh man, I feel badly for Mama. I know what that feels like. That's rough.
But I just think so many of us do that. And so I realized I took that example because of the boxes, but so many of us do, because in today's society, there is so much happening that we're doing, that we've taken on, that we've never done as humans before. So a lot of times with our feelings, because we haven't been taught how to work with them, process them, even have like respect for them.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting saying, like going with what you're talking about is now that I'm kind of thinking of it in terms of your mom in the box. And then I kind of thought of this, you know, because I've sort of been going through all these boxes and stuff, maybe in the last, I don't know, 6 months. I mean, I feel like I'm always kind of purging stuff. I always say to my kids and stuff, am I ever going to be done organizing? And they're like, no, evidently not. But the point is, I feel like I am always purging something. But the thing that's interesting is I was like, how do I still have so many of these boxes that still have to be gone through? Now, by the way, everything's very labeled and organized. And so it isn't like I'm a hoarder. I mean, I guess maybe I am. Maybe I'm just a labeled, organized hoarder. But I guess the piece that was interesting was it was very painful for me to go through some of these things that, by the way, I didn't think I had any emotional tie to them. I mean, you're right. Some of them were just old papers or old notes I had written and stuff like that. But I think a big part of it was, how do I still have so many of these things? And I think part of it was because, you know, literally like you're raising kids, you're trying to build the new company, you're trying to pay the employees. We had COVID. I was like, how? And I've been in this house 5 years, which is like a miracle. I'm never in a house 5 years, but I moved. Ironically, in hindsight, it was like 2 weeks before COVID started. We moved and this house was gutted and blah, blah, blah. And I realized, oh my gosh, no wonder. I mean, then COVID came and it was like all hell broke loose, right? So that's happened. Then all of a sudden you wake up and it's like 5 years later or however many, 10 years later, and you're going, wait, I didn't deal with this. But there is a good freaking feeling, tell her on the other side of putting a lot of that stuff through the shredding machine or the bonfire, dare I say, in Los Angeles, so that we don't set one.
And so it is. I just feel like so many of us do that. But you're right. Like once you really shred the shit, get it, whatever, you know, it's so freeing. And I tell this to my son all the time. You know, I'm like, certain animals, when things happen that hurt them or are hard, they have to move it out. They shake it out, you know, and cultures, not ours, but around the world, people dance things out.
Like when you're, you know, when you got kindergartners or whatever, at school, they used to say like, they would do this thing and they called to get the jiggles out. You know, it's just to like, yeah, shake it off.
But in our society, in Western society, we don't do that. We're just like, you just push through, you just persist. And we can, but it comes with consequences or drawbacks or whatever, right?
I want to ask you, I promised a friend that I would ask you. We were talking, very loyal listener. Thank you for every day's a train wreck. I'm going to disguise her. I'm going to call her with her, maiden name initials. So I'm going to call her TC. And we were just talking this weekend and she was telling me about her daughter, whose name starts with an M, had been giving her a little bit of trouble. And I was like, oh my gosh, when's the birthday? When's the whatever, all this stuff. And then they had this, she and her daughter had this big blow up, I guess, on Friday. Right. And I said, get the time she was born. So can you do that on the fly? Can you tell me anything about this girl if I give you the time she was born?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say there's got to be something there with this, how this whole thing came up with her daughter. And I just happened, you know, obviously I was going to be interviewing you today. And there's so much energy and change and stuff. I was like, send me. And sure enough, she's followed through and she sent it to me. So tell me when you're ready.
Okay. Well, and you know what I was going to say is, again, like getting ready to have a full moon where full moons emotions are heightened as they are. And then we have a lot of energy right now too, that is just, there's friction. And it's like in many different places. We've got Mars and Uranus. I think I was talking about them earlier. I was talking about Uranus earlier, but Mars, who wants to make things happen and go, go, go. Uranus is unexpected. So those two are colliding. We've got, there's a lot that's happening. So we would anticipate like emotional outbursts or people doing things that we didn't expect them to do.
I appreciate you saying that because I had some of my own stuff last week where I was like, what in the world?
And listen, it plays out very differently in everyone's chart. So I do like to give that too. I mean, listen, it could be something that really is affecting her daughter. It might not be. Like for someone else, it might be like, oh, that's not that big of a thing. Okay, what is the birthday?
Okay, the birthday is 10/4/08, and she was born in Pasadena, California.
Okay, and what time?
10:55 p.m.
TC, if you are listening, looking at the two charts, her chart and her daughter's chart together also, there's certain things that can just be interesting to look at, like the patterns. Are there, what kind of lessons does this relationship need to go through?
Okay, well, the next chart you're going to be doing is for sure is my daughter and my chart, because that's going to be that's, oh Lord have mercy, that's going to be a good one.
She has her moon in Sagittarius. Full moon in Sagittarius coming up. Sagittarius is a fire sign.
That's me. Okay, so wait, is the full moon in Sagittarius, when is that? Is that the one on Wednesday? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And now I got to call her. Frickin' A.
I'll need to look this up because actually off the top of my head, I don't know what degree the full moon's at, but her moon is at 19 degrees. And so if it's close, that also is just going to be an added.
Okay. So no wonder everything blew.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, keep in mind, passionate, really, especially about their beliefs and what they believe to be right versus wrong.
So that's her moon is in Sag, you said? What's her rising?
So her rising is Cancer. So what I would say though too is her moon is hanging out close-ish with Pluto too. And Pluto is a powerful planet when it connects with one of our inner planets, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. That to me, so that means that her inner world has Pluto, who loves Scorpio-like tendencies too. So Sagittarius moon might be like, this is what I believe. I am sticking to my beliefs. I don't care. Scorpio moon might be a little pricklier too and might say something that can really hit somewhere deep that can be hard. That's a manifestation of it, but it's just her inner world is deep. Don't mess with it.
Okay. So she's a Libra sun, Sagittarius moon, Cancer rising.
And Cancer rising. And I want to weave in Mercury because it's about how we think, how we process, how we analyze, how we communicate. It's our mindset. So Mercury is important. Hers is also in Libra. And listen, Libra's like, I'm going to hear both your sides. I'm going to get the pros and the cons, but ultimately is it just? And then with that Sagittarius too, it's like, again, what she believes is what is just. She has Mercury retrograde. Mercury was retrograde when she was born. And how that plays out in the birth chart just means that she might need to ruminate a little bit more. She's going to overanalyze, overthink, overprocess perhaps before she says the thing. Mercury doesn't love to be in Libra. It's not a bad thing. It's just, I was going to say, and then having this be where Mercury's got to overthink, it's just going to overthink and overthink and overthink, which means then too that things can bubble up because we're not always getting it out immediately, like what we need to say. So add that into with a fiery moon. Sometimes that can be just the thing. I would also say that, and we'll close it here if you like.
Well, no, we have to close it with the full moon. So finish this little piece. I love this podcast party of one, but We have to close with the full moon for everybody. Okay.
Okay. Cause I feel like I brought up Jupiter in Cancer because I was like, oh, would be a great day because Jupiter's so happy to be in Cancer. This is me putting myself out there again. And I was like, I'm going here on, Marley's calendar on this date. Anyways, she as a Cancer rising, her rising sign's at 1 degree. So her asserting herself, her really growing into who she is. Also, like Jupiter's right there on top because Jupiter just moved in. So at 1 degrees of Cancer, where her rising sign is. So her asserting herself, having big feelings, saying the thing that maybe she needed to say.
She had some big feelings from what I understand. I would have loved to have heard that.
Okay. So full moons are a time to reflect, to review. I like to say to do all the revisit, re-examine. We get a moment to take stock. Yes. Think about all of the fullness that is your life right now. What areas need to be trimmed? Where's the fat? We need to trim it. We need to make space for new things that better serve us. So full moons, again, the moon is illuminating our world, our inner world. Like, what is it we got to let go? So full moons, this is a time where we do think about what you need to release. And because this is in the energy of Sagittarius, there is this think about what you believe too. Like when you're thinking about what you're releasing, again, is it because something isn't in alignment with what you believe? What kind of vision do you have for your life? Like Sagittarius is sky's not the limit. Like sky's the limit.
Not really. As soon as you said that, when you're like, sky's not the limit, I was like, oh, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So it's what are your biggest, boldest ideas for what you want for your life? What do you need to remove that's going to help better support the kind of new visions and ideas and dreams that you have for yourself?
So it's kind of like pruning, right? It's like pruning, deadheading. I was doing so much deadheading yesterday and Saturday of the garden. So maybe that's all because of the full moon. I was getting rid of stuff.
Yeah. And because Jupiter is the overseer, I like to say if Sagittarius was a home, the Jupiter is the landlord. Because the landlord is in Lake Como right now on the yacht, staying at the villa in its happiest place. The impact of this moon is big. We're going to feel it big. And we do believe that it's going to bring some big blessings too. Yes. And timing is also interesting too, because if we think back on when the new moon was in Sagittarius, that was back in either November, December. I think it was December 1st of 2024. So we think about what was happening at that time. And again, I don't want to make this political, but again, we changed presidents. This is a different administration for a lot of reasons. Without being political, this is very different than anything we've seen in a long time.
I promised you were going to be done, but I need one more second on this because when you said look back, so the first week of December, that was 10 days before I fell off my horse and broke my back. And so when you say that, so what are we supposed to be thinking about when we think back to that? What was going on at that time?
Exactly. So at that time, it was the new moon in Sagittarius. So we're okay, what are the dreams? Where do we need to be bold in our life? What are we passionate about? What are the things that we need to set intentions are to bring that passion in to make those dreams happen? It's a new cycle. So then here we are 6 months later. And now we have the full moon in Sagittarius. It's all right. So what has happened since then? What have you learned? So yeah. And so that's why too, there's a lot of big emotions right now around this time for lots of reasons, right? So to just, again, because I try to weave in a little bit of the collective, do with that what you will, but this time is okay, what needs to change? What needs to shift? So I always like to say for full moons, especially actually for her daughter, Cancer risings, because the moon is our landlord. Cancer risings feel the moon a lot. So we fluctuate with the moon. So not only is she a Sagittarius, fiery, passionate moon, she's moon ruled. So our moods or our feelings fluctuate with the moon. So we have to pay attention to that. I would say to any Cancer rising, I would say if I was Dr. Astrology Ashley, learn the moon cycle, understand it. It is your best friend.
Well, it's hilarious because when I did this thing with Viola, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and she's talking about, it took me first of all, I'm not even blonde. I'm the darkest haired person you'll ever see. And I felt like I was like the dumbest blonde in there because I kept thinking when she kept saying the full moon and I was like, then the next day it's like brand new. It's like dumb. That's you wax and you wane. So it's, kind of starts going down in degrees. I forget what is even. Oh yeah. Cause she was talking about how she shaves her legs, I think, with the full moon. Is that right? Because you shave them because you harvest. I don't know. Or it's like a new thing, whatever. And I was like, Viola, this is just a hot freaking mess. But anyway, okay. So we can everybody now go back to listen to Viola's latest podcast so that you can tie it to what she was saying about the full moon. And Ashley, we've brought it full circle. So for anybody who wants to get their chart read or get any other kind of divine inspiration. And by the way, I think I've given you as a gift, and I think you are the biggest gift. So you guys get Ashley for your friends because you do this virtually. So Ashley, how can everybody find you?
Yes. I'm on Instagram at Shift and Shine. My website is shiftandshine.com. I'm also on TikTok. At I am Ashley McFarland. So those are all the ways.
I love it. Well, Ashley, I cannot thank you enough as usual. And of course we ran over. My next one is going to be my daughters and my chart, but I can't thank you enough. And everybody, listeners, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you for participating and listening to another episode of Every Day is a Train Wreck with your conductress, Marley Majcher. If you haven't already, please make sure you follow the show, subscribe, tell a friend, rate it 5 stars if you're so inclined, and leave a comment. It's super important. It's what keeps us going. All right. Ashley, thank you again. And sure we'll have you on. Be another full moon, new moon, something.
You're so welcome. I love chatting with you, Marley. So
thanks, Ashley.